Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and a few people are asking me again because they haven't seen some of the older material that I have up on this. I think a lot of people forget that I have to cover the same material over and over because the subscriber count always goes up on the channel, and people don't seem to realize there are search engines, YouTube channels, to where you can find if they've covered a given topic before based upon the title or the description. And so honestly, a lot of these topics I could cover every single month, and there will be several thousand people who see it who have not seen me cover it before. So I want to talk to you guys just for a little bit about beltless training, because people are wondering why I do beltless training. They saw that at my powerlifting meet I didn't use a belt for my deadlifts. My last training clip, I don't have a belt. I very rarely have a belt on in training clips. And the reason is because I only use the belt for meet prep. And it's because there are advantages to training without a belt. And I'm not the only power lifter who says this. In fact, there are multiple raw world record holders who spend at least half their year training without the belt. People like Dan Green, Jamie Lewis, these guys who are actual record holders, they do that. And there's a lot of other people out there, people like Paul Carter, who advocate this. You'd be surprised how many of the top athletes and a lot of the top strength coaches and powerlifting coaches recommend long periods of time of training without a belt to strengthen your core. Of course, this becomes a sport-specific thing, and it depends on what sport you compete in. I would be more inclined to push a bodybuilder towards wearing a belt more often for their heavy lifts than I would, say, a field athlete, like an American football player, rugby player, even like a soccer player. And guys, I have to distinguish that. Almost half of my subscribers in America, and in America, if you say football, nobody knows you're talking about what the rest of the world calls football. Completely different sports. Or a boxer, or say an MMA fighter, anyone who's going to take hits in the guts on the field, or who needs to generate explosive power through their legs on the field, they're not going to have the luxury of wearing a belt in the field, and it's not necessarily going to help them to have them train without one. You want that stronger, thicker core for them to take the hits, and to be able to brace their abs and their core harder without a belt to press against. Whereas with bodybuilders, because they don't care about a strong core as much, and this is one of the reasons that some bodybuilders are relatively weak throughout when they try to do big, heavy, full body movements, is because they have weak cores, not because individual other muscles are weak. Any guy with a 22-inch bicep measurement, his triceps can probably generate a shitload of force. If he's got a 56-inch chest, his pecs can generate a lot of force. It's just that his whole body might not be able to because he hasn't trained it as one unit. But they don't have to, and so keeping a belt on them can help keep their abs and their core a little smaller, which might help with their aesthetics and their symmetry, but it's going to hurt their performance. Now, I've had other people argue, including even some other YouTube channels, and I respectfully disagree with them, that the belt actually improves core strength and core activation, and therefore it could make it thicker and stronger, but it doesn't. We don't find that to be the case in the real world, and the studies that people try to cite on this are EMG studies. Now, I think EMG studies are very good to determine if a muscle is being activated or not, if it's being activated weakly versus strongly. It's really the only three things you can determine accurately with EMG studies of a muscle. But they can't tell you specifics. A EMG study cannot accurately tell you that an entire head of a muscle, a specific muscle, is being worked 12% more doing one thing than doing another. They're not that accurate. They can get you in the ballpark. They can't pinpoint down that level of accuracy to where you can say one type of curl stimulates more bicep than another, particularly when loads start changing. You've got to be realistic here. Even loading parameters would dramatically change those things. So they're not effective for that. So when you have people trying to say, well, there's some EMG studies that suggest that you get more abdominal activation with a belt on, it's not really good evidence, because you're going to get abdominal activation at a certain peak threshold squatting with or without a belt, and it's not going to be accurate enough for you to determine which one is working more with just the EMG. But we know from the real world observing people that clearly your core has to work harder without a belt. And it does translate over into your belted lifts. And you're coming to a powerlifter, the guys who train without a belt, they build up strength, and people are saying, well, their legs aren't getting work as much because they're using lighter weight, but they do. Their legs and everything develop just fine. Their core has to get stronger, their stability has to get better, and when they throw the belt on, their strength goes way up. And this is a tried and true method used by champion after champion after champion. So yes, I do recommend that most of you should be spending a lot of time training without a belt, but these things really need to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. And a lot of you, the belts you're using, you might as well be going beltless anyways. If you're just using some cheap belt you bought for $20, it's purely in your head that it's doing anything for you for safety or strength. It's a piece of junk. It's not really useful. Just throw it away. When I'm talking about a belt, I'm talking about an actual good belt. So hopefully that clarifies that a little bit and it makes a little more sense now. All right, guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go.